Welcome to day 3 of the Fall 2025 Web Development Technologies course. I'm Jim Kaufman with Rankin Technical College. Today we're going to go ahead and go through Chapter 3, so we'll start with the Chapter 3 lecture. After that, I'd like to review pretty much like I don't want to say all the assignments, but kind of just show you about basically how the assignments and how to relate them to the directory structure, just to make sure that there's not any confusion about where to place your code. And I'm also going to go through a couple other assignments showing you how to kind of use some of the external resources to help you through those assignments. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and get this lecture going. So Chapter 3 is about enhancing a website with links and images. So by the end of this chapter, you should be able to describe the image file formats, describe the image tag and its attributes, add images to a website, explain div elements and attributes, use a div element within a web page, describe the different types of hyperlinks, create relative links, absolute links, bookmark links, email links, and telephone links. Describe the types of lists in an HTML document. So we have ordered list, unordered list, right? Create an unordered list and a description list. Embed a map within a web page. And test and validate links on a web page. Okay, almost all modern web pages contain images. Images are used throughout a website to enhance the visual appeal and provide visitors with additional information about the product or service. Other images, such as business logo, promote the company's presence and brand. Most websites use images to enhance the look and feel of their web pages. And here's kind of a roadmap, to add images, to add div elements, add hyperlinks, list, embed a map, view a website in a browser, and test and validate the new pages. So images include photos, drawings, diagrams, charts, and other graphics that convey visual information. Image files are created in several formats. So the graphics interchange format, GIF, right? And I'm sure you've heard of a GIF and that, but probably didn't know that what it actually stood for is a graphics interchange format. And the big thing, I'm sure that you've all seen little animations, and basically that's one of the things of the graphics interchange format is that they can be animated. Okay. And then there's also a PNG, which is the portable network graphics. But, it supports transparency, so you can have a transparent image, but you can't do animation. Then there's the Joint Photographic Experts Group, JPEG, right? JPEG. It's either called JPG or JPEG. JPEG is a standard file format for digital photos. Okay. It's used to reduce the file size, okay? This lossy compression used to reduce file size. This technique is used to discard some of the color information in the image. There's also what's called SVGs, which is Scalable Vector Graphics, is a format that uses markup language to create two-dimensional graphics, images, and animations. So here's a list of those. The format, the pros, the cons, and what they're used for. Okay. Image dimensions and file size. Pixel is the smallest element of light or color on a device display images. Okay. So a pixel, everything's always quoted, especially for like screens, your laptop screen, you might have an individual display is all measured in pixels, right? So common resolution for laptops is 1366 times 768 pixels. The disadvantage of an image with a high resolution is that it also has a large file size. Use graphics or photo editors to optimize an image with a large file size to reduce its file size and load time. So there's various tools available for that. And I will go ahead and give you some resources on possible ones. Also, if you're using Windows, you can use Windows Photos. There's options within Windows to do some things. And also there's some other external products you could also use. Many of them free. When using images within a website, be sure to give each image file a meaningful name. You shouldn't just call it image 1, image 2, image 3. You should give it a descriptive name. Make sure when you also do that, don't have spaces in there, right? Don't have spaces in there. Spaces cause issues. I kind of talked about that earlier on with file names and that. So folder names, file names, image, you really should never have any spaces. Okay, you should always, should be using dashes or underscores for all of that. The image tag is, so there's image tags, right? So we've looked at other kinds of tags. There's the image tag is what's called an empty tag. So you don't have your end tag like you do for the body tag or the HTML tag. It's what's called an empty tag. So you're going to have the image, but there's multiple attributes you can use, right? Source, alt, height, width, okay? So the source identifies the file and the image to display. It's basically where is this file? Where is this file at? Okay, where's this image at? I shouldn't say file. Where's this image at? And we'll take a look at that. The alt tag specifies alternate text to display when an image is being loaded. Okay, and it's especially useful for screen readers, which translate information on a computer screen and audio output. Should briefly describe the purpose of the image in 125 characters or less. So the alt tag is used. So there's these screen readers. So if someone's visually impaired, let's say they're blind and they can't see, they can use screen readers. And if you have an alt tag and you have a very nicely description in that alt tag, then it will read that out so they know what that image is. If you don't use an alt tag, it's not going to have anything, right? So it's very helpful. Alt tags are very, very useful for descriptive purposes. And then also, sometimes things are being loaded. Sometimes if you've got a lot of stuff on a page and the internet connection is kind of a little bit slower, it will kind of show that prior to the image being loaded completely. And then height obviously defines the height of an image in pixels, and width, the width. But sometimes you've got to look at what you're doing with that because, some images already have kind of a height and width. Some are perfectly square, right? And that way, so let's just say you had a 200 by 200, that's a square image. Well, most images are not that, they're rectangular. Some are, 100 by 300 or 200 by 300. So when you start manipulating that, it's going to manipulate what that image looks like. That's just something you kind of got to play with a little bit, okay? So here's an example. Let's make this a little bigger. Here's an example of an image tag and its attributes. So you start with the image tag name. You have your source attribute and a value. Okay, and so we'll talk about this here in a little bit. I'll show you. We'll do a little demonstration and show you. But this is from having this image tag by having the source just being this. That means that this image has to be in the same directory as where you've got your image tag. So basically your HTML. So that HTML document you have where you've got this image tag, if it has this like this, that means that this logo needs to be in that same directory. Now, if you have, which you really should have a separate image directory, and that in that circumstance, you would have this prefixed with the name of the directory slash then the name of the image. We'll take a look at that here in a minute. Here's an alt attribute saying this is the company logo. And like I said earlier, we've got these for accessibility reasons. The big thing is, for those screen readers. And so if a screen reader reads this, it's going to say company logo, right? Here's the height attribute and value, and here is the width attribute and value. And this is in pixels, 125 pixels, 200 pixels. Okay. Div elements define an area or a division in a web page. Okay. So this is separate from the images, right? Separate from the images. Just this is a new tag. So this is this is one where this is not an empty tag, right? So the div images, a div defines an area within a web page, and this is not a semantic tag, right? Divs are not semantic tags. They're not like navigation, or article, or footer, or header. Div just kind of some area on your page, right? It doesn't really tell you much about it, right? It's used to structure parts of the web page to which an HTML element does not apply. Okay. So it's not an article. It's, you just may want to do some special kind of styling and also, okay. And you'll learn more about that as we continue here in this course. Can be used within the main element to further divide the primary content area into separate sections. So this is just showing, we've got a header, navigation. Here's some different divs you've got in your main section here. This is a main section, all of this. And it's showing you've got some different divs here, different div elements, okay? And then your footer at the end there. Div elements have attributes that provide information about the element. The ID div attribute identifies a unique area on a web page that distinguishes it from other page divisions. So one thing to really know here that's very important is whenever you got an ID needs to be a unique ID. So you should not have multiple tags on your page that have the same ID. Okay, they need to be unique IDs because it's going to be, the reason to have an ID is there's going to be some reference to that ID somewhere. You're using it for some purpose, okay? And we'll learn that more when we're doing style sheets and we're doing JavaScript and stuff like that. You may want to refer to one specific element on your page, and you do that by giving it an ID. And if you have more than one, then I think it's just going to return the first one. And so, that's not how you want to do that, okay? Add links to a web page. Make this a little bit smaller here. So a hyperlink, a link on a web page allows user to navigate a website and move from one page to another page, okay? Link, text, an image, or other web page content that visitors tap or click to instruct the browser to go to a location in a file. A text link. When text is coded as a hyperlink, it appears as underlined text in a color different from the rest of the web page. Okay. Image link, an image used as a link, so you can wrap a image in a link tag okay, and if you do, then you can click on that image and then it will go wherever, and some websites display a border on the image. All right, an anchor element. An anchor element is used to create a hyperlink on a web page. The A tag are the start and the end tags. Include the href attribute. Okay, very important, this href attribute in the starting anchor tag to identify the web page, email address, file, telephone number, or other content to access. The value of the href attribute is the content for a link. Okay, there's different kinds of links. There's what's called relative links, and then there's what's called absolute links. Okay, we'll also talk about bookmark, but relative and absolute. So let's talk about relative. Relative link is hyperlinks that link to web pages within the same website. So you should always, when you're trying to access something that's within your control, within what you have, all of the pages, the images you have on and within your website, you should always use relative links. There's no reason to use what's called an absolute link. An absolute link is when you're having to access something outside of your website. Okay, so always remember from your web pages, things that you have control that's within your directory structure, you always should use relative links. Okay, and here's an example, a relative link. Here's just index.html. So if this, wherever this is defined, okay, whatever file this is defined in, this index.html needs to be in that same directory, in that same exact directory, okay, for that to work. If you have another directory, then you have to prefix this, right? So let's just say you have your pages broken up in different directory structures. You'll have to put the directory name right here and the / index.html. Okay. Now, absolute links are hyperlinks and links to other web pages outside of a website. Create it using an anchor element with an href attribute that designates a website URL. So it's similar to this. This is the relative one. It's still similar, but you can see that you've got, this is a absolute link. This has a full URL, right? So in this case, you're going to google.com, and this is considered an absolute link. Okay, and then there's this idea of bookmarks. So some web pages contain a lot of content, making the page quite long. Okay, so you can actually have links. You can have things at the top. You click on that, and it will actually go to a different spot within your web page. You have a very long page. It will go to a spot in your web page. Okay, bookmarks let websites visitors jump to specific areas on the page. To create a bookmark, insert an ID attribute and value in the element where you want to include a bookmark. Next, create a link to the bookmark. Okay, images, image links. Images can be used to link to another page within the site, another website, an email address, or a telephone number. Okay, and in this case, you've got your image tag, right? You got your image tag, and you've got it wrapped in an A tag with an href, right? So that what will happen here is you'll see the image, and that image will be a link. You click on that, and it will go to the index.html page. Hyperlink that links to an email address. So you can use anchor tags, the A tags, right, to link to an email address by including an href attribute followed by a mail to, and then the email address. And what that will actually do, it's going to use whatever's your default email client that's set up, okay, on your machine, on your computer, whatever your default client is, it's going to go ahead and use that, and we'll take a look at that here in a minute. So here's the mail to, right? So you're just this is just like any other link where you got an A and an href, but what you're wanting to do is that to be before you have your email address, but you're going to do a mail to and a colon, and this will automatically, the browser knows, hey, this is an email address, and I need to, on the mail to, that means I need to open up the default email client, okay? There's also telephone links. It's a hyperlink that links to a telephone number. You use an anchor element to link to a phone number by including the href attribute followed by the TEL colon plus one number, and we'll take a look at that as well. And for that, here it is. Okay. And what will happen here on this is when you click it, and we're going to take a look at this, when you click it, it's actually going to, there's probably multiple applications that are actually on your computer that potentially could be used for calling, right? For that. And we'll see where it's going to tell you, ask you to select one, right? Adding list, make this a little smaller. So list structure text into itemized a format. You have what's called unordered list. They display bullet items in any sequence. You have the UL stands for unordered list, okay, and that's the tags for that. And then you also have what's called LIs, or called list items, okay, and them are the list items within your unordered list. So you have an unordered list tag. You'll have one or more LIs, which are list items. Then you'll have, and then you'll have to make sure that you close out your LI for each one. And at the end of all of them, you will close out your unordered list. Okay. And here's an example of that. First item, second item. Okay. And so this will automatically, the browser knows to automatically create a bullet list of these. Okay. Now there's also what's called ordered list. And you display information of series using numbers or letters. And here you use OL for ordered list, right? The other one was UL for unordered, OL for ordered list. Same thing with the list item, okay? And the following code creates a numbered list of the two items, okay? We'll take a look at that both in the code, and I have some external resources. We'll go ahead and take a look at that. Needs to be done in a couple different assignments, so in different ways. So I'm going to kind of show you some resources to go look at for that. So here's an example. Let's make this a little bigger. Here's an example of unordered list. It's just got your bullets. Here's an example of ordered list where it's going to be numbered 1 through 3 here. All right. And also there's a different kind. It's called a description list. It contains terms and descriptions. You use a DL tag for that. So you'll have DL tags, and within a DL tag, you'll have different DD tags, which is description, definition tags, okay? And we'll go take a look at that. The following code creates a description list of 2 terms and definitions. So here's your first term, your first definition, your second term, your second definition, etc. Okay. So term and definition, DT and DD. So you got a DL, right? That's your enclosing tag. Then you have DTs and DDs. And here is an example of that. Okay, embedding a map. Many businesses include a location map embedded within their website. It gives visitors a clearer view of the business location. Websites such as Google and MapQuest provide online maps. Obviously, there's others as well. Web developers can visit an online map, enter an address, and then obtain a required code to embed an online map directly into a web page. Okay. I'm showing you about embedding a map. I will go ahead and go through this here, how to do that. So in this chapter, kind of just learned about the different kind of hyperlinks. We learned about some different HTML elements, including the div tag, right? Div tags are not the semantic tags, right? They really don't have they're not giving you the semantic tags are always about, it kind of gives you a hint of what you're doing, and like a nav bar, NAV, navigation, NAV, that's navigation. And, you got your body tags, that's the body. You know that you've got a maybe like an article or a footer or a header. Them are all semantic tags, right? A div tag is not a semantic tag. So we looked at the image elements and list. So let's go ahead and look at some code on this. So here, and I'm not saying that this is the right way or what you should be doing, but it's just kind of an example of using, and especially when we start doing some Bootstrap stuff, there's the idea of these containers, and you'll be seeing a lot more div tags when we do Bootstrap stuff, but that'll be later on in the course. But in this case, it's saying, okay, within this body, I've got this container. I'm giving this an ID of container, and if you recall what I said earlier, whenever you use an ID, you don't want to have multiple tags that have the same ID. So each ID should be unique. So you should only have one of these, right? IDs. You get a multiple div tags, but they need to have a different ID. Okay. And this one has container, and it's basically wrapped the whole thing. So if you look right before the end of the body tag down here, right, there's the end div tag, right? And then obviously it shows that within the editor here. And, since we're discussing this, showing a little bit longer of a page than we've done before, over here, if you always come over here, you can always collapse and expand things. So and this can be very helpful in making sure you got your tags together, right? The header here. So this header, this is an example of a header that's also including a nav bar, and this is okay to do this. I think before earlier assignment, we had a nav bar that was separate from the header, and that's okay too. But sometimes a nav bar can be part of a header. That's allowed. There's nothing wrong with doing that. In this case, we've got a nav bar that's part of a header, and also we've got a logo. Same thing with collapsing here, just for your own, information here. It's a good way to, sometimes you get too much stuff going on your page. You kind of want to, do that just so you can concentrate on certain things, right? Okay, so here, this first one here is an href tag, and this is an image. This is a index.html, which doesn't actually even exist, right? This page here is my chapter 3 .html. So if you click this, it's really not going to go anywhere, but that's okay. But this is one where, and we can go ahead and change that real quick. You can see that. But maybe I'll do it for like this one here. Okay. For the about. So here though, this is a href tag that wraps an image. So that means it makes this image a link. So we click on this link, right? It's going to go to the index page. Maybe I will just go ahead and new file here and just do index. And just for the heck of it. Okay, so we got that. So let's just go ahead and go look at that real quick here. And also I have a image here, okay? And I want to show you some functionality that's really beneficial within Visual Studio here. So if I have it kind of helps you, right? So if I try to do Rankin right here, and you start spelling it, no, it's not finding anything. If I do an image, IMG, you see this kind of folder popped up, right? And I can click on that. And then also look, it went ahead and found an image in that directory, and it also included that, and you just click on it, boom. So then you actually went to the right place. Like I said earlier, when we were going through the slides, if something's within the same directory structure of the document, so chapter 3.html is this file right here that I'm creating. If you have something in the same directory, which is like the index.html, then you can just go ahead and do it like that, right? But if something's in a separate folder, right? So our rankin1.png is not in at the same level. It's in this image folder. So first you have to put image / then the name of the image. And the same thing would be with a page that, if you had multiple directories here, maybe you had sub pages as a directory, it all kind of depends on how you maybe, designed your website, right? And if if it's not, you just remember, if it's not at that same level, if that page is not that same level, then you're going to have to make sure that you include the folder it is. Okay. All right, so that's that. And it's a company logo. It's wrapped. And let's just go ahead and take a look real quick. Open with Live Server. Let's bring that over here. So this right now is, if you can see over here, I've got the just a little arrow. If I go over here, you get the little hand. That's a link. If I click on this, it will go to this index. Here's the title. I don't have any content, but index.page. So you actually did go to that page. Okay. And we'll show you something. Might as well just show you this. You can always go right click and do view page source, and it will show you. I know this is a little confusing here. We're using Live Server. This is code that's injected by Live Server. You can just kind of ignore that. This is just how Live Server has things configured. But this is basically your page right here. Okay, this is your page. Remember, I had the index page. Live Server is injecting this. Don't worry about it. Okay, you can just kind of ignore it. Kind of forgot about that one. I was going to show you that, but that's okay. All right. And so now we have these other links. So About Us, we click that. What's going to happen? We don't have an About Us page. Cannot get About HTML, right? You can't get this. So what we're going to do, right? We're going to have to we should need to create that. So let's just go ahead and create that real quick. New file, about.html. I'm just doing a quick way to, why that's not working for me. Having some issues here today. All right, it's about page. So once again, like we kind of talked about in the slides, this would be considered a relative path. It's relative to the directory structure, right? It's relative to where you're at. Whereas this is an external one, right? Okay, this is an external one. And it's called an absolute one. Okay, so, and then this contact one is using, by doing that, putting that little hash or a pound sign there, the hash or a pound sign. We used to always call it pound sign years ago. Now it's basically usually just called hash. So that, right, and contact down here, okay, it should actually go to contact here. Let's see if that works that way, right? So let's look at all three of these, and I'm going to show you something else. I'm going to make this a absolute path, which you don't want to do, but I'm going to show you, because sometimes students do this and you really don't want to do it. I'm going to show you what they kind of do sometimes, okay, when they're coding. All right, let's go ahead and open this with Live Server. And let me grab this again. So now we have this About Us, okay? And the About page, nothing on there, but yep, that's the page, right? I'm just going to copy this for now. Because I'm going to make that, I'm going to use that and put that in there. And I'm going to explain why you don't really want to do that. Okay, so then we also have contact here. If I click on this, it's going to go all the way down to here. And that's based on, it has that pound sign. See that pound sign right there, or the hash. And it's basically, it's using that ID. It's using that ID of that div tag, right? And so we'll take another look at that here in a second. And then here's our external link. This is going to go to google.com. Okay. Now there is a way to make this go to a new tab. Here it's just going within itself, okay? And I'll show you that here in a minute. But there's a way to make that go to a new tab instead of opening in itself, right? All right, let's look back at the code here again. So real quick, I just want to kind of show you this and explain why you don't want to do this. So I'm going to take this relative path. Like I said, whenever you're within your own structure, you have control over documents. Always use relative paths, not absolute. So this is a relative path, right? Even if you have things with a directory structure, it's still a relative path. It's relative to your directory, right? An absolute path is where you kind of got the full URL, right? So there's the full URL. So here's a full URL. And actually, since we're using Live Server and it's running on this local host, right? Let's go take another look at this real quick. So it's running on, this will work, okay? So I'm going to click About Us. And once again, we're at that About page here, okay? I'm at this About page. But why you don't want to do that is because in the real world, you don't even always know where your running thing is. This is just running this locally. So sometimes, let's say, later on, we're actually going to deploy some of our code, to like what's called GitHub pages. And we can actually, it's going to be deployed there where you'll have a URL and everything else. Okay. If you have localhost in here, it's not going to work. It's only going to work if you're using the relative path, right? It's only going to work. So whenever you deploy an application, having localhost, not a good idea. Because this is saying this is only local to my machine. Okay. And sometimes even if you run multiple instances of Live Server, it will create a different port too. So there's multiple things can go wrong with this, okay? That's why you don't want to do this, right? This is local just to your machine, right? For some reason, localhost, you check it in like this, and I come and get it, localhost might be running on a different port on my machine, okay? It might be on a different port. This is the port. It might be running on a different port, and so it's not going to work. So that's why you always really want to use a relative link whenever you can. All right, so that's that. Let's take another look at contact real quick here. We use the hash, right, before the name. So this hash is used for IDs. So basically, you come down here again. Since this ID is contact, it will go to the spot in this HTML document, right, within the browser. And this is actually a very good use of the div tag, right? We said the div tag's not a semantic tag, and this is a very good use for that. Use bookmarks, okay? That's called a bookmark. Okay, so let's look at email and phone. So here we're doing a href tag, and we are doing a mail to. So this will open up the default client. Here's our email address, and then we're just putting this as what the link is, because this doesn't get displayed on the page, right? This is just in the code. This is the content that gets displayed on the page, right? And then also phone here. You have to follow just like this, tell and a colon, and then put your phone number here, and then here's the content that you'll see on the page. Okay, not really gonna go that far, but we're gonna link it. We'll see how it kind of works. Okay, and the other thing is using an iframe for a location. I think I have this one pointing to the arch, and we'll look at that, and I'll show you how to create your own as well. How to use like Google Maps to get the content you need it to paste it in here. Okay. So let's go ahead and take another look at this page. Open this in Live Server. We're going to click this contact. And here's our email and our phone. So I'm going to click on this. And I'm going to open it up in a different. So mine, on my computer, it defaults to Outlook, and it automatically brought this up. New mail. So it puts the 2 in here, then you would continue to add whatever you wanted to add, but that's how that works. This actually is integrated with whatever your default email client is, your Windows default client, right? It'll be your Windows one. Wouldn't like go to Gmail, okay? All right, and then also we have our phone one here. So I'm gonna click on that, and as you can see, pick an app. So I want to pick one, and as on my machine, there's multiple things that can actually make phone calls on my computer, and probably going to be the same thing for yours as well. Okay. Within browsers, you can make phone calls, and Microsoft Teams. There's also by default, I think you got this phone link comes with all the Windows stuff. So I'm sure you're gonna have multiple things on here as well. I'm not going to do anything here, but it was just kind of showing you how that works. Okay, next thing is the location map. And here, as you can see, if I hover over this is the Gateway Arch, right? So that map, and this is, embeds a map within your page and based on location. So I'll go ahead and show you how to do that real quick here. So I went ahead and opened up Google Maps, so you can just, search for what I did is Rankin Technical College. So I searched for Rankin Technical College and then clicked on the Maps link, or you can just bring up Google Maps and type in Rankin Technical College, okay? And you should see something similar to this, right? And then you can come down here there's the share down here under this about, and click on share, and then click on embed a map, okay? And it has this iframe, okay? An iframe is just something where it's actually just including that's how you can include a map on your page. An iframe is just a special kind of HTML element, okay? Copy HTML, all right? And then let me get rid of that. Let's go back into so right now we're pointing to the Gateway Arch. That's what I put in here. Let's go ahead and take this iframe and just replace that. I copied that over there from Google Maps. And now I put this in here like that. And I saved it. Okay. And now let's go see, hopefully this will all work correctly. I'm going to go ahead and open in with Live Server again. And if we go down here, there we go. This is Rankin Technical College on downtown on Finney Avenue. There's the headquarters for Rankin Technical College. So that's how that works. Okay. What else did I really didn't look at this much? Let's take a quick look at our list here. That's the only thing I guess I didn't. And I'm also gonna show you some external resources to help with some of that, especially for your assignments. Okay. So here we have an ordered list, and this is a list item. So this is an ordered list. So we know ordered was going to be what, like 1, 2, 3, right? If it was an unordered list, it will be bullets. If you use UL instead of OL. Both ordered lists and unordered lists always contain list items, LIs, right? One or more LIs. And here's your descriptive list, and you got your term, right, and your description, and that's how you do that one. So this one here's GIF, JPEG, okay. It's kind of a little different here. You have a DT and a DD tag. You can have multiple DD tags under a DT tag, okay? Let's take another look here. Let's go ahead and, let's look at this real quick. So, 1, 2, 3. Let's just change this just for the heck of it and do this an unordered list. And now our list now just has bullets, right? Before it had numbers, now it has bullets. Okay. The next thing I wanted to do is show you some resources you can use to help you with your coding. So developer mozilla.org, this is kind of the de facto unofficial documentation. There's not really an official, there's the HTML specification that organization actually takes care of the specification. But as far as documentation on how to use things and all the different elements and what they're for and examples and stuff, there's not really an official one, but Mozilla is considered the unofficial. So, and besides just HTML, this is kind of the more official, more reliable documentation for HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and others as well. So especially though HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, okay? So I'm going to come in here and we can go ahead and here's like the different elements. So right here you've got your different elements that's possible, right? And a couple of them that I know are in some of these assignments. It's kind of like a block quote, right? That's gonna. I'll show you that here in a little bit. So today we were looking at the DLs and the DT. So here's your DL description list. So here's an example of this. Okay. And you can actually click like play here. And it'll show you over here, and you can sit there and update this, right? You can add things, add whatever you want to do. It's just going to update over here, right? Try things out. And then obviously, if you like something, you see something, you can cut and paste it if you need to, whatever, right? So something to play with. So all of the different tags that are available. Okay, I'll kind of show you how to use them. Image tag, right? So we got this, kind of just shows you examples. So this is a great resource. Tells you about it. Elements embeds an image into a document. Also it has, if you just go to the docs web HTML, it's great to read through this. Okay, it has some beginners tutorials, just if you need some extra help. Talks about a lot of different things. Okay, and then also there is HTML tutorials. So here's the different. You have to look through some things, but I'll show you here. Let me do this for you. So there's a Chapter 3 homework assignment. And in this, it asks you to do some different things. Okay, one thing, it tells you to do a block quote, right? So if you just go out here to here, type in search, hit enter. Let's see what happens here. Block quote tag. And it shows you an example of block quote tag. Try it yourself, okay? And then you can, this is W3 Schools. I'll send you the link to this one as well. This isn't really the official documentation. It's probably a little bit of an easier website to use than maybe the MDN, kind of the de facto documentation site. W3 Schools probably a little easier. And here you just run it, right? Well, over here you can make changes to it, right? So there you go. And that can help with your different assignments. You can take a look at it, right? So this is important too. Let's see if this will work for me. A target. So this is something that I meant to kind of show you and I didn't. So what this will do is by using target equals blank, okay? If you don't have anything here, let's just say you got rid of this all completely, right? You didn't have this at all there. When you click on a link, it's just going to replace what's in wherever you're at. It's just going to replace that. Whereas if you do it like this and click it, it's actually going to open up in a new tab. Okay? This is where we were. We click this. It's going to open up in a new tab because we have target equals blank. So that's how you handle target equals blank. Okay? So we looked at block code. Target equals blank. What else was in here? Strong. So strong tag. Let me kind of clean some of this stuff up. I'm starting to get okay. So what was that? Strong. We'll go in here and do that. Here's the strong tag. This is text is important. Strong's about important. Try it yourself. There you go. This is a strong element. Okay. So it can be very helpful for things like that. It's a good resource. Okay. Obviously, it's not going to help with things like this, right? You have to create your own pages on yourself. It's basically about your tags and putting things on tags. Oh, here another one is, let me show you this one here. Write HTML for an ordered list that uses uppercase letters to order the items. Okay. Let me show you what that looks like. Okay. Let me show you what this looks like. Sort of. I'm going to show you their example. Okay. So we're going to come down here to list. Where's that at? List. And then here, these are the ones we kind of already seen, right? We looked at an ordered list, unordered list, it just has the bullets. We looked at an ordered list, has the numbers, right? I'm going to go down here a little farther. Here's the DLs and the DTs. Don't tell me, well, am I on the wrong thing? No, I think it's going to be under other list here. I think it's other list. Let's see here. So it's actually under ordered list. So under ordered list, here's just a basic one that we've done. But also there's this ordered list has a type attribute. Okay. And so you can say type 1. Type 1 is going to be numbers. That's kind of the default of ordered list. By default, it's going to do this no matter what. It says default right here. But if you have type equals 1, it's just going to put numbers there. Or if you don't have anything, it's going to put numbers there. But if you, instead of having numbers and you want letters, if you want uppercase letters, right? And that's what that assignment was talking about right here, uppercase letters to order the items, right? An ordered list. So that was exactly, so this is what you would want to do for that one, type equals A. So let's try this ourselves. Let's go ahead and click on this. Run, it's already going to run, 1, 2, 3, right? So we can all, but if we change this to like an uppercase A here, okay? Now if we run it, it's going to have uppercase A, B, and C, like that. If you put a lowercase a, hit run, A, B, C. What other options are there for that? Let's go see, did I have that right here? Assignment would be number, Roman, lowercase Roman. Let's just take a look at that for the heck of it since we're here. So here I'm going to make that uppercase I and hit run. So there's your Roman numerals. And then obviously if you put in a lowercase I, there you go. But for that assignment, it was asking you to put uppercase. So that's how you do that for that homework 3. This is homework chapter 3. So it's a good resource here, the W3 schools. And also this is kind of the official. You can do the same thing out here. It just probably is not as user friendly. Let's see. It's not so bad. I think it's improved actually. Does this automatically change? Yeah, it does. So it ain't bad. So other options there. So that's a block quote. You can kind of do the same searching. You can do the same searching in here. Okay. All right. So I will send you links to these resources. You know, be very beneficial. Okay. I did want to go over just the directory structure that we're using in our GitHub repositories and the assignments. I did make a couple small changes. I kind of want to just go through that here real quick. Okay, so in our directory structures that we have, right? And this is on GitHub. I'm looking at on GitHub, and obviously this is going to be, you're going to have this, you've cloned it, and you should have your local version as well, right? So the final midterm, we ain't really worried about any of that right now. We have HTML.css. And then here you've got data files. And I would go ahead, I kind of changed this path. Originally, I was going to use this exercises directory for everything, for all of the kind of these different exercises here, the apply, extend, analyze. But a lot of times it's asked you to use the data file stuff, and that's how it always, in the book, it always references it. So let's just go ahead and use the data files for this. And it's like here, chapter 1, apply, and you do your work there. This is the one I did the other day in class. This is just my own personal one. So that's that, okay? And it's for these. Now, it's a little different here for this one down here. So this your turn exercises. This is something, your personal portfolio and this dog grooming is something where you're changing throughout the course. Okay, you're changing throughout this book, this, I guess, first half of the course, the HTML CSS portion of this course. You're going to be changing this for the next 7 weeks or so, right? And so it's probably not best to put this in the individual chapters, because then you go to the next chapter, you need to use what you did in the previous chapter and add new stuff. You have to keep adding new. You'll have to copy it over each time. So what I would do here that I think is probably best on this, instead of using the data files for that, okay, use the exercises. It says exercises, HTML, exercises, your turn, go down here. So this, all these we're just going to kind of ignore, okay? But go down to your turn, and then you've got a personal portfolio and your dog grooming. So you can go ahead and put your work in here, so that you're doing this in one place all the way through. Okay, one place all the way through, but you may have to go. It might reference something. You might have to copy something over, some images, some different things. You might have to copy that over from data files. Okay, it might tell you that you're using some certain stuff in data files, so just copy those over. Okay, so you go to data files. If it says to use certain things in data files, grab that, copy it, put it in either your dog grooming or your personal portfolio. All right. Just be careful. Take your time in doing that, so you don't have you get a bunch of clutter, unnecessary stuff in here. Okay. Makes things easier when you check it in. Okay, and then the labs. Okay, and yeah, I do want to mention exercise 3 for all of the your turn exercises. The number 3 one is a group one. We're going to skip the group stuff, just because it's a little bit of a challenge, since some students work full time and stuff, and it's hard to kind of create groups and stuff like that, right? So from right now, I'd like to do some figure out a few little group exercises we can do at some point in time, but right now, for the most part, we're just going to go ahead and skip the exercise through 3 of the your turn exercises, and the same thing for the labs. Skip lab 3, because that's about working as a team. So we're going to skip those as well. Okay. Now, as far as the other 2 labs, okay. So for that, let's just go from the beginning. We've got our HTML CSS directory. We have our labs directory. Okay, and in our labs directory, we have Strike a Chord and Wild Rescue. Now, these are also ones where you're going to be building and changing and adding to them throughout our time here, for the HTML CSS portion of this course. So this way, you can just start it here and you just keep adding to it, right? Keep adding to it. So that way, and then there's another scenario where you may need to grab some things from data files and copy it over, okay, in the correct directory. So I think that makes things a little easier. You don't want to because like if you kind of look at data files for like the lab stuff, I don't want to use, I think for the other for the apply, these ones up here, it kind of makes, it's a little simpler because we're not reusing them. You're going to get done with that. You're done with that. You do chapter 1 apply, chapter 1 extend, analyze, you're going to get graded. We're done with that, right? But the ones for your turn, the dog grooming and the personal portfolio and Strike a Chord and Wild Rescue, you're going to constantly be adding, right? So if you went out here to data files, let's see, chapter 3's images. So I assume there you go. You've got images for lab 1, lab 2. You just grab these images, right? Um, so just within File Explorer, right, wherever it is on your local machine. If you need help with that, let me know. So open up in File Explorer, grab these, copy these over into your local repository directory, right, for each one. I hope that makes sense. Hope that's. Please let me know if you have any questions about that, and I can help you with that. And this is going to probably pretty much the same for all of our assignments. Okay. So that's all I have for today. Please let me know if you have any questions. I will be sending a email. Usually every week I send an email. At the minimum, I try not to do too many emails. I usually, if something's really important, I'll send a separate email on something really important. But generally, I send like a week 1 email. Welcome to welcome to the week, like welcome to week 1, welcome to week 2, etc. I did that for the week 1 a couple days early, just so you guys knew what was kind of going to be happening. But usually those week 1s, week 2s are going to be coming on a Monday. So, this next one will be week 2. Every Monday morning, early in the morning, I'll be sending out welcome to week 2, okay, and have some information in there. And then usually I go ahead and send an update every week. So actually today, later today or early tomorrow morning, probably I'm hoping later today, which is Wednesday, I'm going to be sending out an update, week one update, and I'll include some links to these external websites. I will have some direct links to some places within the videos where we went over certain things, okay, just to make things a little easier for everyone. So that's how I kind of handle that. So please let me know if you have any questions, and have a great day.